What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, they're going to be talking about who's the best football player ever. Stephen A. Smith makes the argument that Deion Sanders is the best football player ever. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Who is the all-time greatest player in the NFL?
Y'all ready for this?
I'm ready.
You know, you have the greats, the Tom Brady's, the Joe Montanas, and people like that. I thought about this long and hard last night, Max Kellerman, Marcus Spears, Ross. Primetime Deion Sanders, the greatest player in the history of the National Football League. Now let me explain.
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear this either.
Let me tell you something. Be respectful. Be respectful now. Okay. We recognize that he's recognized as the greatest corner the game has ever seen. This man single-handedly shut off an entire side of the field. Am I right?
You're right.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
Absolutely.
So we got that out the way.
Yep.
That's done. That's done. Okay? We ain't talking about a defensive lineman rushing the quarterback. We ain't talking about somebody that's a sack master. Whether it's Reggie White, whether it's Lawrence Taylor, whether I don't give a damn who it is, JJ. Well, I don't give a damn who you got. Okay? Rushing the passer, that's one responsibility. You're talking about a man that shut off an entire side of the field. That's just defense. What about offense? Did you see him in the Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Did you see when he caught the ball and then got up and started dancing? You saw him play wide receiver, right? Okay, that's two, right? That's offense, is that not? I'm sorry, what's the third category in football? I believe that's special teams. Are we gonna sit here? And bring in the question, primetime Deion Sanders on special teams, punt return, kick returns, prancing around the field, daring you? Am I lying about this? Daring you to kick the ball to him.
And that's not even your main point, is it, Stephen?
That's even my main point. All I'm trying to say to you is this. So you got offense, defense, special teams. We can bring the wardrobe, we can bring the showboat, and we can bring the marketing, all of that into the equation. You can't come to me. Maybe you want to mention Bo Jackson. Injuries obviously derailed him, but he was a running back in football, and then he played baseball 2 months. I didn't even bring up baseball. I didn't even bring up. Hold on. And not only did this man play in Major League Baseball, not only was he in the ATL, for those of you who don't know, the Black Mosaic. Lord have mercy. I just shiver. All right. Not only you got that going on, right? Not only you got
I live in A.
Yes, I know.
Shout out to
I know. All right. But not only you had that, but who else did he play for? The greatest franchise in the history of sports.
Came up with him.
The New York Yankees. Excuse me. And there are going to be people out there that's going to say, oh, you know what? He didn't tackle. You know what my response is? Where's your evidence? Because I didn't see people catching passes in his vicinity enough to be tackled. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? Where's the...
So I think Stephen A. Smith makes an excellent point makes an excellent argument that Deion Sanders probably is the best football player ever. So I was primarily going off of his defensive skills, but he just brought up, he played offense, defense, and special teams. I kind of forgot about that because I always knew Deion Sanders was the best cornerback. He was the best shutdown cornerback. Excuse me. He would shut down the whole side of the field. And then he could play offense. He could play wide receiver. He had hands. He has wheels, so he could take care of business there. And then on special teams, you wouldn't dare punt to him or kick to him because he was so fast that he could just easily run it back. And all that started since Florida State, so it's nothing new. So I think Stephen A. Smith might be right that Deion Sanders might be the best overall football player ever because he can take care of business on all three elements of football. Now, if you want to talk about just defense, that might go to LT because LT could probably he can play the run and he can drop back into pass coverage, which Deion Sanders couldn't necessarily play the run like LT would be able to play the run. So I think if it's overall best defensive player, that would go with LT. Also, as far as baseball, there's more to it. So I think Deion Sanders is the only player to play in a World Series and a Super Bowl. So we already know Deion Sanders won a Super Bowl and, well, he won two, but he wasn't able to win a World Series. If he was able to do that, he'd be That would just be amazing. And I think he was the first player to play, I think, in a football game and a baseball game in the same day, or it was something like that. It was something like that. But also with him in baseball, a lot of baseball players that play with him said that if Deion Sanders played or put as much effort as he did in football and baseball, he would have easily been a Hall of Famer. He would have easily been a Hall of Famer in baseball, but he was forced to choose, and that was a travesty that he was forced to choose, and people hating on him because he decided to play both sports. But you guys can check that out on YouTube. So let's continue.
Evidence. So when you look at it, you can't bring a quarterback, you can't bring a defensive lineman, you can't bring anybody in the history of football that did as many things as he did.
The answer is Tom Brady. This one's not tough.
If not for the Super Bowls, would Tom Brady be your first quarterback that you select?
No.
If you select in the defense, who the first player you starting with?
LT.
Period. That's the best football player to ever touch the field.
So Marcus Spears makes an excellent point there. If it wasn't for Tom Brady's 6 Super Bowls, would we be talking about him? And you could probably say no, even though he has a lot of records. You could probably say no because getting those 6 rings is a team effort. But as an individual quarterback, would we be talking about Tom Brady? I don't know. That you could definitely make that great argument. I think between Tom Brady and Joe Montana, one of those two is the GOAT, which can be argued because Joe Montana went to 4 Super Bowls. He never lost, so he's 4-0. But with Tom Brady, went to 9 Super Bowls, but he won 6 Super Bowls, which is 2 more Super Bowls than Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw. But you lost 3, and you lost 2 to one guy, Eli Manning. So what's up for Eli Manning? I know I've said this before, but it's just kind of I'm starting to trail off. So let's continue.
Because he changed the entire game. And the reason why is because he controlled everything that he did. Deion was dependent on a quarterback throwing his way or a receiver being good out there that he could make plays. In the kicking game, he had to go out, they had to kick to him to make plays. LT determined every time he was on the field how the game was going to go.
So you are right about that. LT did determine how the game was going to go because he had way more control. He could play the run and play the pass, like I said. But as far as Deion Sanders was dominant on defense, but what he was able to do on offense and special teams made up for his lack of control, full control, like what LT would have playing on defense. So, like I said, LT, he could take care of business on defense, but he can't really do too much offense. He could score maybe a fumble recovery or interception, but Deion Sanders could do the same thing, but he can also go on offense and put in work. LT can't do that. Deion Sanders can also go on special teams and put on work. So, and LT can't do that necessarily. So I think you have to give it to Deion Sanders because Deion Sanders is more versatile. He's more dangerous in more aspects of the game. Even though LT may have more control, but across the field, Deion Sanders is more versatile and he's way more dangerous. So I'd have to go with Deion Sanders at this point, unless they have more time to really split hairs and think about this whole thing. But let's continue.
That's why he's the greatest football player ever. It was nothing you can do to hide from that freak. And then, too, let's not even bring this up. Since you want to bring up Atlanta and since you want to talk about all the things outside with the Yankees, guess what LT was doing when he was the best player in the NFL?
I'm scared to ask.
Tell us.
I'm scared to snorting that stuff. So that
out of his helmet.
So that was even that is even another point to why.
Oh, wait a minute.
So I don't know if I would have brought that up because that kind of tarnishes LT's image and what we're talking about, his football greatness. I don't really want to be talking about his substance abuse issues, even if he was doing it during a game or before or after a game. I don't really want to bring that up. I don't want to tarnish his image in this, even though it's part of his game. But let's just stay away from that type of stuff. Let's just stick to his numbers. All right. So let's continue.
Could you imagine being a quarterback and you see an LT do that on the sideline?
Time. Wait a minute. Some would argue that gets you high before it got you low. So I don't know. I mean, some would argue that might have been a performance enhancer, which to me dilutes your argument. Now let me get to the other point.
It does kind of dilute your argument by bringing that up, and there's nothing cute about bringing up this guy's using drugs during the game or whatever you want to call it. But, like I said, let's just stick to his numbers. I don't really want to bring that up to water down what LT did because he was a baller. And, I don't want to bring up any drugs or whatever because, like I said, that waters down what he did and makes him look like a bad guy when he was an absolute baller. So let's continue.
Hold on, let me get back to it now. You say that. I don't refute what you're talking about, even under those circumstances, if we talking about the best defensive player. But when we're talking about the best football player all time, in terms of the multitude of things that a brother brings to the table, remember, keep in mind, no, he don't have 6 Super Bowl rings. He just got 2. But he had one when San Francisco,
wherever he was, they won.
When San Francisco couldn't beat Dallas, they went and got Deion and beat Dallas. So Dallas said, well, damn it, come on over here. And then they beat San Fran with Jerry Rice.
Let me ask you this question.
That's what they did. Okay?
Let me ask you this question.
All around.
You got the 3 players we talked about,
okay,
right? Let's take position away.
What?
And you got a chance to take one of them first. And you say, based on what this guy is,
that's not fair. That's slick.
Who you
that's
taking?
At his best, LT.
Max, I got him. I got him. First of all, you ain't fooling nobody. Come and take. To inform our audience. Number one, what side of the ball did you play on?
Defense.
Okay. All right. And not only that,
you took a defensive player.
On top of all of that, you pride yourself on being intimidating because that's what LT was. LT scared the living hell out of you because he got to the quarterback. LT wasn't the greatest in pass coverage. He got to the passer, but he wasn't the greatest in pass coverage. All I'm trying to say to you is that, and he was phenomenal. LT was phenomenal. But
LT was great in pass coverage.
But he won. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm saying he was good, but I'm saying when you think LT, that's all I mean. That's killing the quarterback. He brought one dimension to it that was so fierce, so intimidating, that it dwarfed everything else.
Did you just say he brought one dimension?
Well, I'm saying primarily. That's what I'm saying.
He did bring one dimension. He didn't play special teams. He didn't play offense. I'm not downgrading LT, but it is what it is. Deion Sanders was more versatile and was more dangerous on different elements of playing football. Defense, offense, and special teams. Thoroughly a weapon and dangerous on all 3 aspects in football. LT was primarily dangerous on defense. So let's continue.
All I mean by that is when you think of LT, what do you think about? His ability to get to the quarterback. That's all I mean by that.
But even what you said about Deion, when people think about Deion, the first thing they think about is showboat.
Yeah, but
that's the first thing. It doesn't take away from how great he is, but prime time is what people think about.
Listen, prime time is so prime time. Prime time is so prime time. The brothers on television, and they don't put them on at any other time but prime.